Now, Kurt Bardella, former House GOP Oversight Committee spokesperson, now LA Times contributor and Democratic strategist, and Alencia Johnson, former senior advisor to President Biden's 2020 campaign, now chief impact officer at the 1063 West Broad Agency. Welcome, both of you. Kurt, you first here. Trump and DeSantis are already the two biggest names on the GOP side. How much will an official declaration by DeSantis change the race?
I don't think it'll change much at all. I mean, we have seen up to this point that Trump's just been unloading on DeSantis, launching a multi-million-dollar avalanche of attacks against him. And to this point, it seems to have worked. I don't think I recall a candidate officially entering a presidential contest with as much baggage and negative connotation surrounding that campaign as we've seen with Ron DeSantis. And it's quite a contrast from someone that everyone seemed to prop up not that long ago as the best chance to take down Donald Trump, the person with all this momentum that people might be coalescing around. And within months, that's completely withered away and fallen apart. I don't really see how DeSantis gets stronger from this point on.
Okay, so what about Alencia with you? The New York Times offering this new report today on the private jets, the secret donors that are funding trips DeSantis has been making all around the country, and new laws that would keep his travel out of public records requests. Like, you couldn't find out the details. How is he allowed to accept donations without disclosures?
Well, I mean, I feel like he's probably not not even probably, we know he's not the only Republican candidate that has gotten away with something like this. And so, their playbook is completely different than a lot of other people that they try to govern over. And so, I think they are just going to kind of push this aside and continue to run and continue to do what majority of conservatives and Republicans do when they have been found, doing something without integrity or without ethics. They will say, it was a quote unquote witch hunt, that they are coming after us. And they use that actually as part of their campaign strategy. It is frustrating, though, that to hear a report like this from someone who is not only a governor of a state, but someone who wants to be president of the United States, with people who do not have these luxuries when there's a housing crisis in this country, there is a poverty crisis in this country. There's so many crises in this country, and yet he is able to not even disclose the financial interests that are already plaguing his campaign.
Yeah, I have trouble understanding that. I'm guessing that's going to have to change once he officially declares, because a whole slew of laws, financial disclosure laws, are going to be put in effect then. I mean, must be. Anyway, Kurt, we have DeSantis, over 2, isn't it, on the candidates that he endorsed in last Tuesday's local races, including one in his hometown of Jacksonville. And then in the latest matchup against Trump, he is down 11 points, this from a month ago, so this was not a great week for him. Do you think he'd be better served holding off on a big announcement like this?
I think he'd be better served abandoning this fantasy that he's going to be the Republican nominee altogether.
Wait, Kurt, let me tell you something. Hang on. I've heard that echoed all over the place. The guy is so young. What's he, 44, 45 years old? Look at what lies ahead if he goes up against Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump will try to eviscerate him, right? And with everybody giving Trump such an advantage, why do you think he's going into it this time? Why not wait till 2028?
I mean, I think that DeSantis and those around him, I think that they're counting on the fact that at some point along the way, there could be some serious jeopardy that Donald Trump finds himself in. Remember, he's in the middle of multiple very legitimate and serious legal, investigations that are unfolding before our very eyes. He's going to be multiply indicted by the time we're all said and done with this. So I think DeSantis is thinking, well, when that happens, at some point, he's trying to establish himself as the primary vehicle to be the not Donald Trump guy that the Donald Trump supporters are going to like. I think that's the calculus right there. I think it's a mistake, frankly. I think there's a lot more for him to lose than to gain by going through this. Because, again, once you run and lose, it doesn't really pan out. Look at the careers of Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Scott Walker, Jeb Bush, all these people that had promising futures ahead of them in the Republican Party. And once they tangled with Trump, they were pretty much put to bed and never really heard from again in terms of that higher office aspiration.
Yeah, no, point well taken. Alencia, here's a look at some of the new legislation taking effect in Florida. Here we go. Banning abortion, allowing permitless carrying of firearms, ending unanimous jury verdicts in death penalty cases, banning college diversity programs, restricting gender pronouns in schools, restricting education on race, and making it a felony to transport undocumented migrants. Now, Republicans are calling these the Florida blueprint. But big picture here, across 50 states, is this really what Americans want?
So I'm so glad you mentioned that Republicans are calling this the Florida blueprint, because while they are saying this is just Florida, it is what you just said, the blueprint for the Republican Party. So regardless of whoever wins the nomination for the Republican Party, this is how they are governing. I mean, we see it in the way in which they appointed Supreme Court justices who are going to decide on some of these cases that also talk to some of these, like the affirmative action case. To your question, though, is this what the American people want? Absolutely not. Over and over again, when you talk about these issues, whether it's common sense gun reform or abortion rights or inclusion programs or ensuring that our LGBTQIA children and brothers and sisters are affirmed, Americans actually want to make sure that those rights are available, those rights and protections are available. I mean, we have a gun violence crisis in this country that is killing our children. And so the issues going directly to the people are on the side of those of us who want to advance progress. But this is the Republican Party blueprint. This is the conservative agenda that they want to take us back to those days. And they are going to do everything that they can, including cheat and steal Supreme Court seats, as well as the judiciary, to make sure that happens. And so, it's something that we have to make sure we're paying attention to going into 2024, because we'll talk about one candidate in Florida, but this is the broader agenda for this conservative, extreme MAGA Republican right.
Wow, sobering. Valencia
They don't
Johnson.
even like this blueprint in Jacksonville.
Bardella. Well, that's true. That's right. That was flipped. You're right. We now have a Democrat mayor there. Okay, guys, good to see you both. I know we'll see a lot more of you. Thank you much. Meantime,